I'm going to start. Shall I start?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk a little bit today about why this is happening, what you can do to use it as a positive, and some of the ways that you may not be using it as a positive, how we can turn those around. And also take a Q&A. So any questions, I'll be delighted. Okay, does that all sound all right?
Yep.
Hooray, good.
Ellie, what I'll say actually is if, well, depending on what the background noise is like, if people get anything interfering, just mute themselves, because it does sometimes override, and then just unmute when they want to speak.
Yeah, so we don't get dogs barking and that kind of thing. I've got my own dog barking weapon here. I'm all kitted out. Right, hello. Good afternoon. So for those that don't know me, I'm Michelle Zelli, and I'm a coach that specializes in taking or making adversity into your superpower. And that's really looking at our mental, our spiritual, our emotional selves, and holding ourselves accountable and starting to understand how we work and also how we don't work. I don't think anybody can deny that we're certainly in an unusual predicament. In fact, it's a predicament that we've never ever seen before. And human beings like certainty. In fact, human beings, we rely on certainty. Certainty for a human being means safety and security. So the planet now is pretty much in shock. Well, what happens when somebody's in shock? Our nervous system goes to pot. And that means that we start reaching for the donuts, certainly in my case. I mean, the fridge door has never been so busy. I mean, seriously. I've also noticed I've been drinking more. I'm not a drinker. I've been drinking at home every day, 3 o'clock on the nose. I have my first glass of wine. Now, why have I let myself do that? Because when you are in shock, you need to be gentle, you need to soften, and you need to allow your body to process the trauma. Those of you with complex trauma, this is very, very likely to heighten something from the past, okay? So don't be surprised if you are super sensitive right now, or your children, or your partners. Super sensitivity is part of the gig when it comes to any kind of shock or trauma. Okay, and it's lovely to see some of you taking notes and nodding. I can't see Tina, Amanda, or Janine, or Miss Anonymous there, but I would love to see a face if you fancy it. And there we go. Hello, Therese. Why has this happened? Why has this happened? Why has the universe stepped in and stopped us continuing the way we were? Well, I'd like you to take you back. I'm very old, but maybe some of you will remember when we were in playgrounds as kids and there were roundabouts, and you'd sit on and you'd cling on to this iron bar, and then somebody would be charged with running this roundabout round and round and round and round. Do you remember those? Just nod at me if anybody remembers those. Yeah. And you couldn't get off, could you? Because by now it is spinning. You're feeling sick. The world is dizzy, but you cannot get off because it's going so fast. Well, that's exactly what we've done with our lives. That's the culture we've created. How many times in the last few years have you said to yourself, you know what, I really want to get off this ride? But we can't get off this ride. We are stuck in a consumerist, a narcissistic culture, which is, by the way, getting more and more narcissistic, more and more consumer. But you can't really just opt out, especially if you've got kids, you've got family. We're hooked into it. So what we have to do to survive is we have to blank it out. We blank out the fact that every time we give our kids sweets, we're poisoning them. And just hear that. I know it's not nice. We blank out the fact that we've got 1 million children in the UK that are waiting for mental health support. 1 million kids, mental health support. I could go on and on and on with the way that we're poisoning ourselves, poisoning the planet. We've all seen the pictures of the whale dead on the beach full of plastic. And what do we do? And you know, I consider myself to be quite green. I don't buy a plastic bag in Tesco's anymore. I still have 10 flights a year. I still buy from Marks and Spencer's. And what I'm saying to you is that the universe has flexed her muscle, and she said, right, you've not looked after the beautiful toys that I've given you. I'm sending you to your rooms so you can think about what you've done, how you've done it, and what you want instead. And this isn't going to go away anytime soon, by the way. You know, the government are drip feeding us the times that we need to be in lockdown, or let's reframe that, staying safe in our homes. But this is going to be 6 to 9 months. And at the end of those 6 to 9 months, we are not going back to normal. Why aren't we going back to normal, I hear you cry? Because normal wasn't working. Normal was not working. And here comes the water pistol. No. So for those of you, let me have a show of hands. How many of you have been suffering with anxiety and fear? 1, 2, 3. Whoa, okay, pretty much all of you. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't want you to whack me down the screen. Before COVID-19 popped up, what were you afraid of? What were you anxious about? Okay, and that's a rhetorical question. I want you to think about it. I guarantee that everybody that put their hand up was anxious and fearful prior to COVID. How can I be so sure? Because nothing can create emotions that you don't have. What's happening here is the universe is giving us this very harsh lesson so that everybody's emotional shiz comes up to the surface. Thought we can have a little party there. It comes up to the surface, okay? So your anxiety is fear, okay? Anxiety is the physical manifestation of fear. If that's what you're processing right now, don't blame it on COVID. It's the work that you need to do, okay? And there's some ways that we can do that. So the first thing is that anxious people, fearful people, tend to put the blinkers on. Now they're either la 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 la, or they just don't want to see the whole of what's going on because they feel it's going to overwhelm them. But you see, what happens is the unconscious mind, which runs 95% of the show, knows that you are not fully genned up and fully prepared. So guess what it does? It creates a feeling that you don't like. What is that feeling? Oh yeah, fear. So the first thing anybody that's feeling anxious or fearful absolutely needs to do, hear my word, needs to do, you need to decide where you're going to get your news source from. Rachel has me, whoever, I don't know where and Miriam, there we are. Where are you getting your news from? Make sure that you are not feeding off social media. I've never seen so much tut in my life. And the reality is that you've got all sorts of people there that are making it their mission to create a, let's call it a club, okay? So they want to be the bearer of news so that you go back to them. We all know about clickbait, yeah? So what's happening is you're getting conspiracy theories, you're getting mixed messages, and your anxiety is feeding on this. But if you were just to say, so for instance, I have 30 news channels, news sources that I use as my primaries, and then I research every piece of news, as Katie will tell you, and she sent me a wonderful message yesterday that sounded really credible, that 20, maybe 30 CEOs of the top companies have all resigned within the last 3 months. Well, here's the news. There's hundreds and hundreds of huge companies, and a CEO's tenure is the average of 5 years. So if you take that as an average statistic, there's no change. But somebody very cleverly has manipulated the statistic to make it look like there's a reason they're all jumping ship. Am I making sense? Give us a nod or a...
Yeah.
Sasha, is that a nod? Katie? Excellent, cool. So the first thing, if you're fearful, is choose your news carefully, okay? And if a statistic bothers you, don't just accept it, go research it. Once your unconscious mind knows that you are taking responsibility for the information that's coming in, it's going to settle down. Now, the next thing you've got to do is also make sure that you're prepared. So you make a list of everything you need in the house and that you need to arrange. So the first thing that we did was we cut all of our direct debits and standing orders. I don't know about you guys, but I had things, you know, like $4.99 here and $10.99 there that I perhaps had a go when I'm a bit tipsy online at 10 o'clock at night and forgotten all about. And a lot of us are doing that. So go through all your bank statements, all your credit card statements, chop everything back to the absolute minimum. When you've done that, start to make sure that you've got your medical box in good order. Loads of paracetamol, loads of electrolytes. You've got an up-to-date thermometer. Make sure it's got a battery in it, Lisa. And what else might you need? Okay, make sure that you're taking zinc and vitamin C. The next step is, okay, what have I got in the house? So you hear what I'm doing. You're going through the practicalities so that your brain can go, okay, we've got this one covered. What's happening in a lot of the cases is the nervous people aren't seeing the full picture. Therefore, the unconscious mind is very, very worried about the blank screens. Okay? So make sure that you've enlarged your screen. So I've talked about normal wasn't working. Does that make sense to everybody? We cannot continue the way we are. We will not have a planet to hand down to our children. The way that the culture that we have created is toxic. So we've got to change it. And this is an amazing opportunity. And as Gandhi says, it's probably the most used quote, you've got to be the change you want to see. So it's no good waiting for Bob or Barbara to start the change. We've got an opportunity here to make changes now. And that's going to be different for everybody. But this is going to highlight what's really important. And what's really important right now might not be that your eyebrows are on fleek. It might be that connection's really important. And one of the things I would recommend is that you schedule every day 2 FaceTimes or Skypes or Zooms. And what's that new thing I'm using? House party. I mean, it sounds a lot cooler than it is because it's got loads of glitches, but connect 2 people face to face a day. Okay, human beings need connection. Also, if you're on WhatsApp groups and they are not making you feel the way you want to feel, opt out. You are the only person that's responsible for getting your needs met. Nobody else, okay? It is not somebody else's fault that they're pissing you off on WhatsApp if you keep going back for more. Making sense? Cool. So I want to take you back. How many people here have been to the Caribbean? Most of you. Okay. Now, one thing that you'll know about the Caribbean are the palm trees, okay? And I want you to think about which kind of tree you are. See, a lot of people, especially in the UK, we really love an oak tree, don't we? It's tough and it's solid and it's old and it's strong and it's familiar. But what happens when an oak tree suffers a tornado? Extreme weathers, what happens? All of us been to Richmond Park, Hyde Park, whatever. What does an oak tree do? Any ideas?
Fall down.
It falls down, it's uprooted. Now, those of you that have sat in, have been drinking pina coladas in the Caribbean, you know that a palm tree, now a palm tree is at least twice the height of a standard oak tree. But when a tornado comes, what does the palm tree do?
Bends.
It bends, and the top of the palm tree actually will hit the floor, but that palm tree will not be uprooted. It will survive and it will thrive. And I want you to channel your inner palm trees right now. If you try and stand rigid against what's happening, this change, and by the way, this change has just begun. If you try and stand rigid, you're going to be brittle. You're going to be an oak tree. You're going to be uprooted, okay? If you allow yourself to adapt, you're going to thrive. Charles Darwin, Origin of the Species, one of the most famous quotes of that book is, it's not the most intelligent or the strongest of the species that survive, it is the most adaptable. And we only have to look at the fox to see that that is true. You know, our poor little hedgehogs and our bunny rabbits really struggled, but the foxes, they're prolific because they've adapted to whatever is thrown at them. So not only do I want you to channel your palm tree, I want you to get foxy too, okay? I've talked about oversensitivity. You are in shock, you may not even realize it. And when you're in shock, what happens is that the prefrontal cortex here in the brain shuts down, and you've got an amygdala in the center of the brain, which is your fear alarm, your fear center. So the fear center takes over and the logic shuts down. And you'll find that this happens in waves. You know, if you watch a particularly dramatic piece of news, you might find that you can't make sense of things. You can't remember things. You're just not functioning as you would like. Be gentle with yourself. That's okay. It's just telling you that you need to calm your nervous system. Your nervous system is saying, I am traumatized. And as I say, the more traumatic your childhood, the more this is going to be true. The more you are likely to go and reach for a bottle of wine, a bottle of Bacardi, a bottle of, what is it, Rach? Rum, can't remember now. Or join, or whatever your gig is, okay? And I'm certainly not saying don't do that, but you don't want to come out of this with a drink or a drug habit. That would be sacrilege. So cut yourself a bit of slack, and a chocolate habit either. Cut yourself a little bit of slack, but have boundaries too. Okay, and if you've got addiction in your family, it is, I'm sorry to say this, it's very, very difficult sometimes to go against that DNA tide. Please, please, please. Now, I have both my parents are addicts, and so it's something I've had to fight against all my life, not always successfully, and I've not always fought that hard, but certainly now in this scenario, I'm very, very mindful, and I would ask you to be as well, because you've got an opportunity here to really channel and to understand your best self. You're not going to do that if you're hitting a tipple every 5 minutes, okay, or whatever your gig is. So you know you're going to be a palm tree, you know you're going to be foxy, you know you're oversensitive, and you now know why you're not functioning mentally as you normally would. Here's a few practical tips, if I may. So the first one is you need a routine. It doesn't need to be rigid, but every day, and I highly recommend that your weekdays routine is slightly different to your weekends. Have a routine. Okay, so you know, get up at, for me, I think I get up about 8, and then I walk for 10k, and then I come back, I have a shower, I feed the dog, blah blah blah. Okay, work with clients from 1 o'clock.
I have mine on the wall there.
There we go. As one we made earlier, and very pretty that is too. You might want to share that one.
I'll send it to you.
Please do. There we go. Sharing is caring. Oh, look, we've got a little hug going on down there. How lovely. Lots of hugs. That's really good for you. So your routine, you don't need to be rigid about it, by the way, but you do need to have a semblance, a framework. The next thing is connection. I mentioned it earlier. Connection is key. If you are down, let me speak about myself. If I am down, my temptation is to hide in the rabbit hole. I don't want to bother anybody with my bad vibes. This is no time to be thinking like that. We are all in this together, and one thing I guarantee you, I don't care how much of this work you do, all of us are going to be up and down like pretty little yo-yos. Okay? And we're all going to have each other's backs. What we can do is the way we process, the way that we, the stories we put around the downs are critical. When I talk about stories, for those of you who are familiar with my work, it's the narrative, okay? So, oh my God, I feel really depressed because of COVID. Sweetheart, no, you don't. You feel really depressed because you were depressed before, but you were you had so many, you were so busy, you were on that spinning roundabout, so you couldn't feel it. It's going to come up at some point. So let me say it again. COVID is not creating anything in you. It is forcing you to feel what you didn't want to feel. And it is the most magnificent opportunity to sit in it and allow it to surface and be inquisitive, be curious. Every time you beat yourself up for feeling something, you are magnifying the feeling and taking yourself further away from healing, okay? Self-attack is your worst possible enemy. Acceptance, let's call it acceptance. Now, I tried really hard to make an acronym and it was crappy. Connection, routine, acceptance, purpose, playfulness. I can't think of a bloody why. So I am charging you guys, I've got some really creative peeps here. I need a why. So we've done connection, we've done routine, we've done acceptance. Okay, so you accept how you feel. Don't attack it. If you attack it, you grow it, you give it roots, and you're going to take yourself further away from healing. And if that means, last Tuesday, I had to cancel clients. I was completely honest with why. I had a house move last week on top of everything else. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And I probably cried for 12 hours. Rachel saw the state of me at about 6 o'clock. I mean, I had no eyes. And I'm sharing that with you because I want you to know that since then, I have been like a bouncing Tigger. I purged, I just let it all out. And I really encourage you to do that as well. And I know if you've got young kids, you might be thinking, well, hang on a minute, I need to be strong. But how are you teaching them that it's okay to fall apart? Really think about this, because there's a very fine line between you putting on a brave face, because they can feel what's going on. Kids have superpowers, they feel energy. Okay, so if you're anxious and you're pretending everything's okay, they're now totally confused because they can't rely on you to tell them the truth, because one thing's doing one thing, but they feel another. That's called being gaslit. Okay, so please find a dialogue that is in that middle ground. Purpose. Human beings must have purpose. Okay. In the Russian concentration camps, one of the tortures is that they get people, I think they were all men, to dig a hole. This hole was like 100 feet wide, and it was 6 foot deep. And you can imagine the graft that went into that in Siberia. I mean, it was not nice environment. What did they do? As soon as they finished that hole, they made them fill it up. That killed them. No sense of purpose for a human being is like dying. So please, every day, set yourself up with a couple of things that you want to achieve. It doesn't matter if it's painting your nails or watering the plants, or, you know, one of my clients painted the kitchen on Sunday. I thought that was quite ambitious, but you need a purpose, okay? And my recommendation is to have 2 things, if they're quite small, or 1 thing if they're big, every single day, so you go to bed feeling that you've achieved something. It will lift your spirits, it will feed your morale and your self-esteem. Okay, now can I just have some hands? Am I on the right kind of ballpark? Is this the stuff you need that's helpful?
Yeah.
Is there anybody that I'm not, that you want something else? Just put your voice on and tell me. No? Okay. Thank you. So don't forget the why. I need something for my crap, E. So let's talk spiritual. And I'm not talking religion here, so let me be clear right from the get-go. This is whether your God is a cat in the moon, or it really doesn't make any difference here. Spirituality is a belief that there is an intelligent force in an intelligent force, okay? And my intelligent force is the universe. And the universe has been asking us over and over again to pay attention. Back in the old days in 2019, most of us were deeply, deeply impacted by the Amazon being on fire. I cried and I cried. I could feel her pain. It was awful. And the Amazon is the lungs of the planet. And it's always been called the lungs of Earth. And now we have a disease that attacks the human lungs. I don't think that's coincidence. The planet Earth is taking a breather. Mama Universe has pressed the pause button and she's breathing again. And we've all seen the pictures. I hope you've seen the pictures of how the canals in Venice are turning blue. There's no dolphins in them. That's not true. However, it's a lovely thought. But they've got fish in them. The Chinese government have cancelled, have banned all wildlife markets. That wildlife meat market was worth more than all the meat in America, consumed in America. They're plundering our planet of wildlife. We've killed 60% of all known species in the last 50 years. So this intelligent force that I'm going to call the universe has said to us, you're not paying attention, you're not doing enough, you will not survive if you do not change. I am now going to make sure that you have no choice but to stop and smell the coffee. Okay? And what you're going to see is the planet coming back to life. We cannot allow that. We cannot allow this opportunity to pass without taking action. And if we do, trust me, there will be a much, much bigger warning from Mama Universe. She's tried so hard to gently tell us. She's sent us the whales full of plastic. She's put the Amazon on fire. My goodness me, she's now meaning business. So we've got to change our new normal, okay? And also, I hope you're all getting out and taking your hour, 2 hours, whatever it is that Boris is telling us that we can have out in nature, because nature has got so much to teach us. I'm very blessed to now be by the sea. I've moved from Richmond to the seaside, and just watching how the waves just flow, the tide just happens. The sea doesn't just suddenly stop because it's got a headache or start judging the sand because it's not good enough. Nature's there to teach us how to be. When you go out tomorrow for your exercise, please take this opportunity to learn something, one thing every day from nature. She's absolutely magnificent. And I like to promote Life in Awe. And one of the ways that I stay on top of all of this is to make sure that I'm plugging into the awe of nature. And she is incredible. And there are a lot of the zoos and the safari parks, even the Aurora Borealis, let's call it the Northern Lights, it's easier to pronounce, society, they're all doing onlines where virtual tours. So you can go and discover things that you might never have even thought about. We've now got the time, let's use it wisely. So let's talk about emotions. What are emotions? Emotions are energy in motion. And an emotion creates a feeling, okay? So just take a little check on yourself right now and take a breath, okay? And just notice, what are you feeling in your body? What are you noticing there? Is there anybody that can't feel anything in their body? Katie, I'm really sorry, but it's really distracting. Sorry. Is there anybody that can't feel something in their body right now? what is the emotion that you're feeling? And where are you feeling it? Now, okay, so I'm connecting with somebody here, and you've got a tight band across. Who's got a tight band across the back of their head? It's not mine. Yeah, okay. So I've got your tight band. Okay. Somebody's got energy running down the back of their legs now, back of their calves. Who's that? Anybody? Like little pins and needles? I know, yeah. I'll say, I know I have. Good, thank you. Now, how can I feel what's going on for you? Because I've got highly sensitive, trained nervous system, okay? And I can't, what I can't do is name what I feel to which person. But there are a couple of people who aren't feeling anything in their body. I can feel some numbness, okay? And I want you to know that if you can't feel an emotion in your body right now, it means you are disconnected, okay? So you're living in your brain, and what you're going to be doing is you're going to be facking yourself. And that's fantasize, analyze, catastrophize. Now, the fantasy might be a holiday in Ibiza, but a fantasy can be negative or positive, okay? Analyze. I need to know the answer. Let's just go. And you drive yourself loopy. I need to know. I need to know. That's ego. Is devil's work. Don't get involved. Catastrophize. Oh my God, nothing's going to ever be the same. Thank God for that. Okay. So those of you that can't feel anything, you have a job to do. And that job is to reconnect with your body and stay out of FAC, fantasize, analyze, catastrophize, okay? Okay, somebody's gone very hot. Who's had a hot flush? Is that you?
Yeah, I feel really hot.
Okay. So what's happening, you can see that my words are impacting each of you in different ways. Sorry.
Hand.
You've got a...
Pins and needles in my left hand.
Okay, so that's trauma bit. That's a trauma response. So just shake it out. Just literally, that's it. Just shake that out. Anybody that's got pins and needles, their feet or their legs, just tap them out. It's what's happening is that I'm tapping into a trauma response. So it tells you that you are in shock. Okay. And by the way, that's nothing to worry about. I'm much more worried about the millions of people who are in shock that are pretending they're not. That's going to hit them hard over the next week. You are going to see people crashing. And please you don't need to be one of those people. I'm so glad you've shown up. It's fantastic to see you. And by taking these small steps, you can stay not only sane and safe, but you can use this time to grow into the woman, because we are all women. Yes, we are. The woman who you really know you want to be for this next new phase of the planet. Okay, so talking about emotions, feelings are in your body. You don't feel things in your head. That's a misnomer. I often say to people, do you love your children? They say yes. I say, where do you feel it? They say there. So that tells me they're cut off. But what does a feeling do? A feeling drives a behavior. So you've got the emotion, creates a feeling in your body. The feeling in the body creates a behavior to either move you towards more of the feeling or away from the feeling. Does that make sense? So my emotion is fear. I feel anxiety in my body. Therefore, I want to move away from it. It's not a nice feeling. So I will either have a glass of wine or phone a friend or whatever I do. Okay? So every behavior that you have, every single behavior, is driven by a feeling. You're either moving further towards a feeling or further away from a feeling. Now, once you start to realize that, you now have the power. Does that make sense? Because what we tend to do is we feel something, we don't consciously work through it, and then we just reach for the wine bottle or the vodka bottle or whatever it is. But actually all we're doing is we're trying to get a different feeling. And if what we do is we teach our brain that when I get this feeling, I have a drink, do you know what your brain will do? It will create the feeling because it knows that you're going to feed it something that feels good. Why do you think cocaine addicts take cocaine? Why do you think You know, we all know that these things are toxic, and I'm not anti-drug or booze, by the way. I'm anti no boundaries drug or booze. So, and it's not, you know, it might be that you are screaming at the kids or your partner and you're justifying it. Well, no, there isn't a justification. It is you're accountable for your behavior, but what's happening is your emotion is probably, what would your emotion be? Let's call it anger, but under anger is always fear. You're feeling in your body, you don't like that, so you get, let's say the anger pulps up the body, pumps you up, you then scream and shout, and you'll make a reason why that was justified to move you away from feeling the actual feeling. You're trying to express the feeling, get rid of it, okay? Take responsibility for your emotions, your feelings, your behaviors, and how you move towards and away from things. Because, by the way, we are pretty lazy. Our brains are pretty lazy. And what we do is we always go for the same few things. We don't have a great repertoire, which is an interesting, because we all think we're so exotic. We're pretty predictable. So we usually miss the components needed to understand those patterns and how we take care of ourselves and how we getting ourselves into those pickles because of the narrative in our head. We're either judging somebody else or we're judging ourselves. Neither is helpful. Neither is going to get you one iota of good. It's not your business to judge somebody else, and it's not your business to judge you either. You either want more of what you're doing or less of what you're doing. That's it. So that self-attack is indulgence. It's something that you've had from childhood. You've had a critical parent, and you therefore have their dialogue, their tape in the back of your head. Okay? So beating yourselves up and worrying about your failings is not allowed. Okay, let's just ban it. When has beating yourself up ever, ever, ever helped you? It hasn't. Now, sometimes clients say to me, yeah, but you know what? If I've done something really bad, then I beat myself up, I won't do it again. No, that's not true. If you do something really bad and you beat yourself up, you're going to feel even worse about yourself. And if you feel really bad about yourself, how do you behave? Better or worse? I rest my case. So you do something really bad, is what you believe, okay? You make amends if anybody else was involved, and you come back to yourself and you ask yourself kindly and gently, why did that happen? I know that that's not who you are. That behavior has arrived, but what was it, what was the feeling that made that happen? So you can't blame anybody else, by the way. It is not somebody else making you behave in any way. You are always accountable for your behavior, always. A few things, I've talked about purpose. And so a couple of things that you might want to do is declutter. You might want to write that book or the poetry that you've been promising yourself forever. You might want to clean out the larder. You might want to do your gratitudes. An attitude of gratitude is a lifesaver, okay? If you hear yourself moaning, just turn it around and look for the good. All of our grandparents or great-grandparents were in trenches. They were in bomb shelters. They didn't have Wi-Fi. They didn't have central heating. They didn't have indoor loos. They certainly didn't have Ocado delivery. So it's really important that we put this in perspective. Yes, of course we are in, if you want to call it lockdown or sanctuary or whatever it is you want to call it, but we've got our home comforts. And so that every day, make a list. What are you grateful for? What lights you up? And for me, I do that every day in nature, much to the annoyance probably of people who are wanting to be grumpy because I'm not having any of it. So what is your new normal? And what are you doing to create your new normal? And you remember I talked about the palm tree and being adaptable. If you are sitting tight, staying the same, waiting to come out the other side and everything's going back to normal, trust me, you will need help. I mean, that is the truth. Things are not going to stay the same. They're not going to be the same. At the very, very least, we're going to go into a deep recession. It's not most likely going to be a global depression. So if you've got businesses, how does a business thrive in a depression? That's your question. And that's something I'm already working with clients on. It's always about preparing for the worst and expecting the best. So I think that pretty much sums up my gig today. But I would love to answer any questions that you might have. What would you like to know? Any questions?
Michelle, I have had some crazy, and I mean crazy dreams, like totally unrelated to
Tom Hardy dreams.
Yeah.
Release that
Like,
tension.
totally unrelated. Like I'm not dreaming. When I say crazy, I don't mean like I'm dreaming that I'm going to die of COVID or my family, you know, whatever. But just dreams that you kind of go, what was that actually even about? Like no relevance or seems like no relevance. You might tell me different. I don't know.
I am going to tell you different, Rach.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
So pretty much every client I'm speaking to, and thanks for bringing this up, pretty much every client session I've had, they're having unusual dreams. And the reason for that is that your dreams help you process the emotions that you are not processing in your waking hours. Okay, so the content of the dream is pretty irrelevant, but the emotion it brings up is most certainly relevant. So what I'm hearing is a lot of people are having dreams of being out of control. They're also having dreams that are fearful. They're waking up feeling fearful, and it's like, I'm out of control. Something I can't, you know, something's going on that I can't control, which is true. Remember that right at the beginning of this session, I said that human beings need and love safety. They need certainty. Well, our certainty has been smacked around the head somewhat. So if you are having those kind of dreams, please note that in your daytime behaviors, what you're doing is you're giving it la, 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 so that you don't feel what you're really feeling. You'd be much better just doing a meditation, breathing into your body, allowing whatever the emotion is to come up, and noticing it with curiosity. What you don't do ever is put a story around it. Okay, so if you sit and you feel fear coming up in your body, that could be 30 years old. It could be something that's just been triggered from a long time. Can you take over for me for 1 second, Rach? Sorry.
Yeah. My next question to Michelle is going to be about what she was saying about the alcohol, because actually the night that I did get absolutely shit-faced, I didn't have a dream at all. So it does kind of prove that the alcohol just totally numbs and blocks.
Sorry about that. I left 2 big stickers saying, "Do not ring my bell," and they rang my bell.
rang the bell. Rachel, can we also ask about being calm as well? If you're
Jan.
very calm.
About being calm.
Yes.
Yeah. Being calm? Who said calm?
Me, Jan. My question is, and I think it's because I've been kind of like locked down a longer time than anyone else, because my boss basically stopped me going to work on the 10th of March. So I've kind of had to curtail everything for the last 20 days. So some of the things that you've been talking about, I don't know if I went through them or not, but I do feel, you know, really calm. I'm getting meditation in twice a day. I'm decluttering. It all feels quite good at the moment. It doesn't feel bad or anything like that.
Right.
And I keep thinking, Is this the calm before the storm?
Well, it might be, Jan. And look, I think it depends on the narrative we put on this. For me, this COVID is the best thing that could have happened. I've seen it, Rachel tell you, I've been banging on about it for months. I knew it was coming in September 2017. So we need this. And if we don't have it, we will destroy ourselves and the planet. So I'm wondering whether, and I know you fairly well, but I'm wondering whether that is you also your story, because the narrative, the story we give any event gives it the meaning. So does that make sense? So it's much easier to be calm about something if we think, whoa, okay, I'm just going to do what I need to do. I need to be in my room, let the universe shuffle what she needs to shuffle. But you've also said you're doing the right things. You've got purpose every day, you're meditating every day, you're cooking, your self-care is amazing. I've watched you sharing some great stuff on Facebook. So I think my instinct is that you're actually doing the right things, which is why you're feeling calm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just to add to this, to your last comment, I also have a friend and myself that they're very happy at the moment, to be honest, and they are scared to get used to it and then having to go back to work, obviously, because they had a very busy lifestyles before these, and now they had been forced to stop and look and spend time with their kids, and so they're actually quite enjoying it. They're actually quite the opposite of everybody else wishing that it lasts longer, basically. So there are people out there that are actually been beneficial in that it's slowed down the speed of their lives and it's benefited them.
And that's absolutely true. And I think what you're saying is that what I heard you say was they're fearing going back to normal. So they need to decide to change their normal.
Agreed.
If this period of time is showing us to change what is important to us, to really change our values. And by changing our values, we change our culture. And you know, I'm loving it too. I think it's the best thing that could have happened. But there's going to be a lot of broken eggs. Trust me, we've not even started yet.
Yeah, Michelle, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Well, it's not a question really. My daughter has got cystic fibrosis and she's just been diagnosed with COVID-19. So the last 2 weeks have been an absolute nightmare. But what I am proud of is the fact that I've able to get myself in a rational place, a fixed state of mind. And this is something that's been happening over the course of the many years my daughter with cystic fibrosis I'm faced with. So I basically have learned over the years, is she going to die? Is she going to die? Is she going to die? Well, actually, what this episode has taught me, or this fact, is that we don't know when we're going to die. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And what this whole lesson has taught me over the COVID-19 is we take each day as it comes. We can't plan for the future. The past is done. And I just feel, in a way, quite empowered by it.
I mean, that's just lovely. And really, what you're describing is what I'm hashtagging new normal. You know, you've grown from this adversity.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm asking everybody to seize this opportunity, because it is once in a lifetime, and you're absolutely right. None of us know when our time is up.
Yeah.
And that in itself is will help us take much more care of the moment. We will stop squandering our resources, our time, and our planetary resources.
Yeah, and I think it's
well
fear.
done, yeah.
I think it's just fear. You know, when I was entrenched in a fearful time, you know, when she was diagnosed, she's 28 years now. She's got a little girl and she's amazing. And each day, you know, I'm speaking to her on the phone or on FaceTiming her, and that connection is really bound, you know, it's making us even more bonding. And I think, honestly, in the face of all this, it's fear. And I think fear really is a lot to answer for. So, you know, I keep on saying the F word, F off fear, you know, because
Brilliant.
it's my monkey brain telling me, oh my God, what's going to happen today?
And
So,
that's exactly what it is. It's the monkey mind, as the Buddhists call it, spot on.
yeah,
And you know, the brain will always cause mischief if you give it the opportunity. That's why it's so important for you to be the master or the mistress of your brain. Not
and
let
I
it
think
control you.
that is the best lesson I've learned. It's taken me many years, and I've been going through this since the menopause. I think it's got to be in my menopause, it's got to be in my job, it's got to be in my family, it's got to be in me. But actually, I'm taking my brain with me wherever I'm going, and it hasn't changed until now, or in the last 2 weeks when my daughter was diagnosed. And you know, Rachel knows Royal Brompton Hospital have been, you know, pretty good, but they're overwhelmed with everything. So it's really teaching me how to slow down.
Really, in the Brompton now, or
Sorry, Rachel?
is she in the Brompton now?
She was last 2 weeks ago. That's where she got it from. She was in for routine treatment. And so she came home a week ago. I rang her the next day and told her she was positive. We don't know where she picked it up. It could be in the hospital, could have been before, because cystic fibrosis and COVID-19 present the same feelings. So, yeah, she's out of hospital now. She's at home.
That's good news.
Yeah.
Marie saying that, Michelle, just reminded me. Do you remember when my fear and anxiety used to be off the level, and you used to make me sit down and have meetings with my fear dealer, and we have long chats, and it used to really help me to just be like, do you know what, actually, I don't want, you know, you can just go away, and I don't want your help, thanks.
No, and I think that for those of you that do still have fear, remember that every time you have a fearful thought, you create 50 plus chemicals to be shot into your system. Adrenaline, cortisol, and 50 other stress hormones that we know of. Okay, so it's probably much more. So it's like having a drug dealer inside of you. So you have a fearful thought, your adrenals pump these chemicals, and they're powerful chemicals. Anybody that's ever had an adrenaline high will tell you it is very, very similar to cocaine. So again, what happens is that we get addicted to the chemicals, therefore we go seek out fear, and we create alarming stories. And that's where we were talking, Rach, about the fear dealer. And and Rachel's fear dealer had a black BMW with tinted out windows, didn't he? You know, I remember it very, very well. Give your fear dealer a persona, and you say to him, off. I'm done. I'm going clean. I no longer want to be an addict. I no longer want to be paying for your flashy BMW. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I wish your daughter very, very swift recovery. Mama Universe will take care. Any more questions?
Michelle, when I get anxious, I sort of get hot flushes. And I've been past the menopausal stage and everything like that. It only takes a few minutes for me to calm down. But when I think of something totally different, it goes. And I'm not sure whether that's normal or not. That's defining normal. I don't know whether that's you know, that's me.
Okay. Is that Tina?
It is, yes.
Yeah. Tina, look, I think when you think about the physiological response to anxiety or fearful thought, your heart beats fast, you get clammy, you get dry mouth. It's exactly the same physiological as excitement. It's just that we put a different story around it, okay? Now, if you were going to, let's just say any of us were going to go and speak in front of 5,000 people tonight, we'd probably find that we get a bit hot and clammy. That's because the nervous system is now on hyperarousal. You've got a little scanner here, and it's just scanning, making sure for checking out danger. Everything's on hypervigilance, so it's all ramped up. And I think definitely post-menopause, we are less resilient. Our nervous systems are less resilient. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. Do you take any herbal remedies or vitamins for your nervous system?
No, I don't. I just take an evening primrose oil every day.
So you need magnesium.
Right.
Okay, now magnesium is an interesting one because stress eats up the body's magnesium.
Right.
And most of us are depleted in it. So if you only take one thing, it would be magnesium. And Lisa, I'm sure will, if we ask her nicely, we'll send you a link. It's not my company, so there's no financial gain for me, but it's a company that we've sourced. It's a family company, and they take their products incredibly seriously, and they're all organic. And they're ridiculously reasonable as well, if they're still mailing out. So if you could ping Lisa at lisa@michellezelli.com.
Yeah.
And she'll send you some details there. I don't know, this company's Ancient Purity. I don't know actually what they're doing, and we ought to find that out in this prices. Another thing that you can do is to have Epsom salts and magnesium salt baths.
Oh, okay.
So you buy your, and I'm a big advocate for organic. You do not want chemicals. Okay, that's going to do more bad than good. So if you put half a kilo of magnesium flakes and half a kilo of Epsom salts, what happens is that the Epsom salts draws out old energy and low vibe, if you like, the toxins.
Yep.
And magnesium is soaked up by the body. So we like to call it the postman and the dustman all at the same time. Okay.
Thank you.
And again, we buy ours in, are they 10 kilos, Lisa, that I get? Yeah. And you know, they're quite chunky bags, but when you're using a kilo at a time, half a kilo of each, they don't take long. And I just put a few drops of something like frankincense in as well, which is just, has got a very soothing vibration. And finally, if your nervous system is in need of help, you need your B vitamins, okay? Eat loads of avocados. And you will.
I love avocado.
Great, 2 a day. Keeps the fear dealer away. B6, B12, but in those order, in that order, you'll really see a difference, okay?
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Any more for any more?
Michelle,
Can I
how
ask
do we
Michelle,
get
it's
Teresa if we need to?
So sorry? Is that Teresa?
No,
No, that wasn't.
Who
it
was
was
that?
me.
Who's me?
I wasn't sure if I was talking over someone. Sasha.
Street.
Hi. I was
Hello.
just wondering if I wanted to have a one-on-one with you, how do I get hold of you?
Oh, well, Lisa's your girl, really. So Lisa at michellezelli.com. Can you all see each other?
Yes,
Oh, you can. Okay, we can see them.
along the
Oh,
side.
that's nice. That's so sweet. So Lisa runs my diary. She actually runs my life, but runs my diary. And if you want a session with me, then what I'm doing at the moment is I've changed very much the way I work. We've all got to adapt. And so I'm doing 30-minute, 60 and 60-minute sessions, which makes them much more affordable. And very few people actually need, most people are coming with something specific. So we can work through a lot in 30 minutes, and I'll always give you as much bang for your buck as I possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Somebody else wanted to ask me something because there were two people.
It was me, it's Therese. Can you hear me?
Therese, yes.
I can't settle to anything. I'm working from home badly and I just can't, I start things and I don't finish anything.
Okay, perfect. So do you remember I said to you that at the moment we're in shock and that the prefrontal cortex has shut down, and therefore that's our logic center, okay? And what happens is the deeper the trauma, the further back in history we go. So this is a pretty big trauma. I mean, you know, the planet's got on a pause button. So we go to our reptilian brain. And our reptilian brain is in fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So there may be times that you feel angry, okay, fight. The flight is where we aren't able to focus a lot of the time, okay? It is absolutely normal. And I was exactly the same for the first week. I was all over the shop. And I'm generally quite, organized. And I just didn't have a clue what day of the week it was. I was making so many mistakes. But instead of beating yourself up and trying to push through, you have to come out of it and heal your nervous system. Okay, because if you keep pushing it, what's going to happen?
It's just going to collapse.
That's exactly right. You'll be an oak tree. Okay, the roots will come up. So what I would suggest is that, what is it? You have to do work at the moment, or it's just trying to keep your mind off things?
No, I'm having to work. So.
Okay. And what hours do you have to do at work at home?
So it's a 7-hour day, but I can't do straight 7-hour day. So I have to break it up, but I haven't got a routine yet. So I haven't got a new routine that works, I think.
Okay. My suggestion to you is, if you can, ask for a couple of days off and use them, do all of the things that I've suggested today in this session. Self-soothe. Now, self-soothing is something very few of us were taught as children, and 20% of the brain only responds to physical touch. Okay, so you take your hand, palm of your hand, and it's your heart chakra, actually, it's the center of your chest, and you quite firmly stroke. Okay, you pat and you stroke. So you think about it, when a baby falls over, when a toddler falls over, what do? We scoop them up, throw them over our shoulder, and we do that, don't we? When a puppy or your dog isn't very happy, what do? We pat it, yeah? It's because unconsciously we understand that this is the 20% that no amount of verbal soothing will touch. So treat yourself to a couple of days of Netflix, do lots of self-soothing, okay? Eat good, healthy food, so nervous system strengthening foods. Drink lots of water. Stay off the booze if you can. So you give yourself a couple of days sanctuary. And it would be, what do you do, Therese? What's your job?
It's a school advice.
I'm sorry?
But I work with a council, and we advise schools about COVID-19 at the moment. So.
Oh, wow. So you're pretty busy then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that will calm down. It
will calm down. So look, what I would do in that case, I would work in 2-hour chunks. 2 hour, hour off, 2 hour, hour off. And that hour off, meditate. We've got a wonderful meditation by Norm Healy. It's an autogenic. It is specifically designed to reduce stress in the nervous system, to reset it. Anybody wants one of those, please email lisa@michellezelli.com. Okay, it's about 18 minutes and it's been reviewed by 26,000 medical white papers. It's believed to be the most reviewed meditation in the world. It's absolutely fantastic. Okay. If you start your day with that and you have a schedule where your brain can see and your nervous system can see that you're taking hour chunks between the work, I think that you will see some good results.
That's really good advice. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Any other questions? Well, it looks like we're cooked. So just to summarize, thank you so much for joining me today. And thanks, Rachel, for setting this up. I will be running some private groups free of charge, just to keep people tickety-boo and running our work. So if you do want invitations for those, they'll be on Zoom again once we learn how to use it. Rachel's going to give me some lessons. Again, just drop Lisa a line, just say that you'd like to be added to the list. And I'm going to keep them to say 15 people. I don't actually know how many people you can have on the screen. We've got 12 people. I don't know if you can fit any more on the screen. How does that work?
Well, you can supposedly you can see up to 100 people. However,
it must be very teeny.
I'm not really sure how that would work.
No. Okay. So, but that's my mission my plan is to hold a few random coaching sessions of up to say 20 people. So keeping them quite small, free of charge. If you want invitations to those, I say, please just let Lisa know. Okay. But remember, you're going to be foxy. You're going to channel your palm tree. You're going to boundary yourself. You're going to give yourself a framework of a routine. You are also going to thank Mama Universe for pressing the pause button whilst we all have our luxuries around us, and start to think about the new world. What is your new normal? Because it's never, ever going to be the same. Thank goodness. Oh, another hug. We started with a hug and we're finishing one. How lovely. So that's it from me, and I hope it's been useful for you. And thank you very, very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, darling.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Bye,
you.
Bye-bye. I have no
Thank
idea.
you very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everyone have a good day.
Bye.